Wow. Okay. First things first. I've got 30 seconds until I can say the F word. So just give me 30 seconds. And Will Brandstetter is going to be on in 1 minute to fix our overlay and to play our sick new intro tunes.
I haven't even listened to that yet, so it better be good.
It's dude, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh. It's good. Real quick, I can talk about this though. Coming up in October, Crash Crucible, the fourth iteration, the retour, savage event put on by JR and CrossFit Crash. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we can. I mean, there's some announcements starting to be made now. Tomorrow, the equipment list for the online qualifier comes out.
Nice.
You can go to the Crucible or the CrossFit Crash Instagram pages to click on the link to register for the online qualifier. Individual semifinalists and returning 2022 Crucible top 5 athletes are foregoing the online qualifier, but everyone else is doing that. Masters is invite only this year, so there's no online qualifier for that division. But I'm excited to even release the equipment list. I think there's some things that will be pretty cool that people probably have in their gyms and have had in their gyms for years, but online qualifiers tend to stick to really basic equipment lists. But I'm gonna branch out a little bit on the needs, and it gives everyone almost a full month to make sure that they have what they need for the qualifier.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, word. My mic was all the way over there. I forgot, and then I unplugged it while you were talking. Okay, dope. So that's and did you say anything about how the workouts are reprogrammed events from the games and regionals?
No, I didn't. So even starting with the online qualifier, those will be reprogrammed versions of open workouts. And most people that know the sport and have been doing the sport a while will be able to see it and automatically know, oh, I know what open workout that's based off of. But the in-person events are going to be regionals and CrossFit Games reprogrammed workouts. I know that's a big risk. I know people have tried to do it in the competition space before. Some have been really good with it, some not so good. But I look forward to that challenge and kind of showing everyone that even though maybe I'm using the canvas of someone else's art, I'm kind of switching out the brush strokes and the colors to kind of make it my own. And I think it's going to be a really cool event.
All right, we're 3 minutes in. I'm fucking excited, baby, for this because I do think it's a bold move. But I also think you're probably one of the most creative programming minds I've ever seen. And I get so pumped at seeing workouts you write. And I've seen some of these, and they're savage. So that's JR's event. A month later, we have the Charlotte Classic at CrossFit Charlotte. This is my event. Me and Brian are putting this on. Brian Friend, that is, putting this on this year. I posted, I guess that video is going to come out next week. Will, we talked a little bit about in a video that's going to come out in a week, the theme of our event. This is the third iteration, and we've got an elite RX, Masters 40 plus, in a community division. It's all individual. November 17th to 19th. That video is going to come out, but essentially you see Django Unchained on the cover. One, he's a fucking G. So that's just cool. Two, the event is, my creative processes were sparked by this book series I'm reading called The Dark Tower by Stephen King. And I'm on the last book. And Idris Elba plays the character in the TV series. And so I kind of sent that idea to Will of like, hey, this is all, the theme's going to be the Dark Tower, the gunslinger. And he sent me the poster art for Django. And I was like, oh, holy shit, that's so cool. So,
I mean, kind of expound upon that a little bit. Did you take that even into how you wrote the workouts? Not like just the titles of the workouts,
dude,
but like not knowing anything about the novel. Is it going to be like more than usual? Will there be workouts that you kind of have to like call your shot and take risks to do well? Like,
there's 100% going to be. Yeah. I have such a weird creative process. And I talked about this in the reel too. Like I was like a couple weeks ago, couldn't sleep. I was reading this book and like one thing stuck out at me and I was like, holy fuck, that's the theme. And it's just one piece, this evil implement in the storyline. I'll say I can't give away anything else other than that. And I just like, whoa, that'd be a sick workout name. Whoa, I know how to make a really cool workout that fits that workout name perfectly. Then I already knew what movements I wanted to be in it. And then it just kind of blossomed from there. So I would say how, we've talked before about how you have like one workout that everything else is kind of built around. It started with that. And they all, it's just the book series is perfect for the storyline of a CrossFit competition, the event names, how they feel. It just, yeah, I'm so pumped about it. And I
It's
just,
really
dude,
cool. Yeah, you're letting your kind of inner nerd come out, which is cool.
yeah. And the past 2 years, it's been kind of loosely a similar theme based off like Ready Player One, kind of like gaming, retro, pop culture type stuff, which is like my favorite movie this year. Going forward, I hope that it continues to evolve and it's something different each year. This is going to be super cool. But yeah, check those events out. They're sick. And then, of course, we're also, me, JR, and Brian Friend are programming for Desert City Classic, which is a week before my event in November as well. So check that out too. But do you want to play our intro music real quick, dude? You got that uploaded? Just play it, dude.
Yeah, I'll play it.
It better be good. I didn't,
You listened to it yet?
I didn't sign off on
You didn't
this.
listen
No,
to
I
it.
haven't listened to it at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
There you go, the little remix.
That's incredible.
Sevon's gonna come in his pants when he hears Bruce Buffer.
Did you think about like
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh my, stop playing.
You're on a loop, dude. Come on.
It's so dumb.
did you think about when she says dribble, just having your voice say scribble over it?
Dude,
I
change
thought about
that.
that, but I
would
was
be
like-
that'd be so cool.
I don't know. I think reminding people, or at least like telling people where the show name comes from, is pretty cool. Because I don't know how many people actually saw that the first time and went,
Understand it.
"Wait a minute, is that an allusion to Shut Up and Dribble?"
Yeah. Legendary.
This kind of also an homage to Savon being so politically charged, and we don't really go there, even though I am too personally. But hey, all right. Helen in the 5K. I predict a 5K swim on a trail, like a fish on dry land. A 5K crawl, a 5K army crawl, dude. They should have bear crawls in the CrossFit Games. Hot take?
That's pretty hot. I while there are like Brinton, the hero workout is bear crawl and broad jump for distance with a vest. I don't think they would ever do it at the games.
So this is one of the hardest. Real quick, Will, what time tomorrow for testing with Brian? Like 9 a.m.?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. The hardest workout, one of the hardest workouts I've ever done. I did one, I'll say it, that I did the other day. But the other one, Austin Maliolo and James Hobart posted an iteration of the hero Alwyn Cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it made the cut, but it was 1 mile run, 400-meter bear crawl, 100 burpees, 400-meter bear crawl, 1 mile run in a vest. And let me tell you, brother, shoulders were smoked. The hardest workout I've done in recent memory I did the other day was in a vest for time, 50 chest to bar pull-ups, 30 dumbbell box step overs with 50s, 20 devil's press, 35 dumbbell push press, and 50 burpee pull-ups. And my vest was covered in snot, and I took a knee a couple times, which is typically I'm really fast on burpee pull-ups, but it smacked the shit out of me.
What was the worst movement?
100% the burpee pull-ups. I've never been in a set of burpees ever, even 7 minutes for time. I think Dubai, the online challenge during COVID, it's like a 10-minute AMRAP of single arm devil's press. So that's like a lot. I think it was like 140 reps, 139 reps or something I got.
Mm-hmm.
Never been in a set of burpees where I'm like, I need to stop. And I stopped a couple times. And that to me signifies it was insanely brutal. So if you're on SMTP, take a look out for that in a couple weeks and enjoy. All right. Helen.
Yeah. So today we're just going to kind of talk about the hot topic, which for right now is at least that there are two clues released without the full details for CrossFit Games workouts, really for all the divisions. That everyone's going to do a version of Helen, and everyone's going to do a 5K, a cross country 5K. We already know that one of the adapted divisions are doing a 5K ski, but like Noelle Henderson, who's competing at the games, who I'll be there to coach, she's doing a run.
Yep.
So like kind of like rinse and repeat last year. I think that was so well received. And because I think it sends a pretty cool message to the community that it doesn't matter what level you're at. We can go into all the implications of these two workouts specifically, but like, hey, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be sexy. And it's things that everyone can do.
Yeah. I think the other thing to note, just briefly, a brief history lesson on the 5K. It's the most programmed workout on .com. I think I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably know that, but if you don't, it's the most frequently programmed CrossFit main site workout of all time, the 5K run. Helen is a benchmark workout. It's a girl workout, and it's 3 rounds for time of a 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, American, or all the way overhead, with a 53-pound kettlebell for men, 35 for women, and then 12 pull-ups. So it's quite the nut buster in terms of it's just gas pedal from the start. It's one of my favorite workouts. I think since having SMTP, I programmed Helen as prescribed for the 60 track recently, maybe a month ago. So that's pretty cool. No, not to suck my own wiener, but
and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Helen or Cindy is the number 2 most frequently programmed workout ever,
which is sick. And I've programmed probably another 5 times or 6 times between Compete and 60 over the past year. The Helen rep scheme or format, the 3 rounds, 400, 21, 12 of just varying different movements. And I've seen you do that too. And
I did it on Monday, and then it came out on Monday, which was pretty cool. It was like it's a kind of that rep scheme is that 21, 12 rep scheme. And even with the 400 is, it's just like 21, 15, 9 is the one that everyone knows. But I think outside of that, 21 and 12 is a pretty cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
We on 60. So I like maybe 3 months ago, we did Helen, or 2 months. And then last week, or maybe it's this week. I can't remember if it's this week or last week. I programmed that rep scheme, and it was a 400-meter run, 21 GHD sit-ups, 12 hang squat cleans at 135.95. It's a little potent, nasty stinger. But I am obsessed with that 3 round for time. And Ellen, the new girl benchmark.
Burpees and snatches, right?
Yeah. Isn't it 20 burpees, 21 dumbbell snatches, 12 dumbbell thrusters?
I think it's
20 burpees.
That sounds right.
An interesting iteration and also cool. I wonder how outside the box they're going to get with Helen. Do you think they're going to change the rep scheme at all? Do you think it stays 400, 21, 12? Do you think it stays 3 rounds? I feel like they could go 100 different ways.
So when they released that all the divisions going to be doing a variation of Helen, there's a couple things that came to mind. One, just because I'm coaching an adaptive athlete, I thought to myself, okay, how could they do this where they don't change much, but taking into consideration amputees, taking into consideration people who are paralyzed below the hip, all that kind of stuff. How could they make it as Helen-like as possible without just making all the divisions do different workouts?
Yeah.
My gut reaction was Boz is kind of being well known now for his like, hey, it's not enough to just be the strongest. Mm-hmm. It's not enough to just be the fastest. You need to be able to run fast, lift heavy, right? We saw it in the open. We saw it in shuttle to overhead. We saw it in the age group semifinals workout, where they had to do snatches at 225. After that, like triple threes type variant. Mm-hmm. We're just seeing that come up over and over again. We saw it at semifinals this year with the run into the max snatch and then the lighter snatch into the run. So the very first time this came out was in 2010, pyramid double Helen into a max shoulder to overhead for load. And I saw that they were doing a version of Helen. And I thought to myself, what a cool homage to just repeat that workout, because it already fits Boz in that way. Hey, I don't care what you can lift. I want to know what you can lift when, you've done 100 plus kettlebell swings. I want to know what you can lift when your heart rate's really high. And shoulder to overhead max is not something we ever see.
No.
Like it's one of those lifts that's like, I think that's the only time it's ever been programmed in competition for the CrossFit Games.
Which is crazy. You think they keep the 90-second time domain on that?
I would love for them just to do it the way it was written. I think if you're going to repeat something, you got to repeat it as is. You change one thing, you change everything. But so that's the first thing that came to my mind. How cool would that be? And it would hold up as a games test.
Yep.
And maybe just with
double.
each division, maybe they don't do the triple, right? They don't do the pyramid scheme. They just kind of take it. They decrease the volume, but they keep the loading the same. The other thing I thought of was it would make a lot of sense to just vary it a little bit and have it be a single arm kettlebell snatch. Whether you leave it at 53 and 35, because Helen is supposed to hurt.
Yep.
If you win Helen in your class, it's because usually at this point, you were able to run the hardest when you didn't want to.
And go unbroken.
And Boz has talked about that on Very Not Random, where like he has this affinity for Helen, but only because it's such classic CrossFit in the way of, yeah, I know you can go unbroken. So can everyone else. I need you to show me how much you're willing to hurt on those runs to get it done. So what was your initial reaction? Like you saw it. What was the first thing that came to your head? This is what I think they're going to do.
Well, initial reaction was and I was just solely thinking in terms of Michelle in the elite division, the individuals. Initial reaction was a dual kettlebell hang snatch. And I initially was thinking 53s for men, 35s for women. You mentioned 35s for men, 26s for women to keep it unbroken, and bar muscle ups. That was my initial thought. I had another thought of potentially the burpee pull up or some variation of that, building off of the open. And then I had the thought of just same workout with a heavy kettlebell. You mentioned a vest.
I think a ruck. Just
ruck
doing Helen in a ruck and just letting that be the only thing after we've kind of vetted people wearing rucks to do other body weight things and grinder type movements. I don't think it would take a lot away from the intensity. What I think you have to be careful of with the loading, whether it's body armor or ruck, whether it's the kettlebell weight, I don't think he's going to do anything to blunt the intensity. I think if he does that, then it's not Helen anymore. And it almost feels like, and we'll get to the 5K run, that's like, hey, you guys have all done this, or you guys have all done something close to this. All you fans, all like a lot of competitors. I just don't see it being too crazy as far as the modifications go.
I agree. When the 5K run was announced, I had the thought of, when I was thinking about Helen variations and how we were all talking about how, the run still has to be important. And then the 5K run got announced, and I'm thinking if both these tests are before the cut and they keep Helen very simple and the run is the linchpin, then we have now 2 of potentially the 6 tests before cuts where it's the run. The run is what matters. And I had that thought, and I was like, maybe there's a way.
So they did. I'm sorry for interrupting you. They did release that the 5K is on Saturday and it's event 7.
Okay. Wow. I didn't see that. Okay. Then that changes things.
But I think you mentioning that, like for me, what implications? Well, that's 2 workouts already. If we're assuming that they're running in both of them, that's 2 running workouts.
Do you think they would change the run in Helen?
I think if you change the run in Helen, you don't even call it Helen. You don't make that post. You don't do anything like that. I think if you run farther, fine. I think if you run it in shuttle runs, fine. I think if you run it weighted, fine. But I think if you take the run out, it's not. And they're very clear on the 5K run. If you go to the divisions breakdown, like, hey, lower extremity adaptive is skiing a 5K. And everyone else, it just says 5K. It just says 5K run. So I don't think there's a lot of gimmicks when it comes to the straightforwardness of that workout. Go on a trail and run. Whether that's loaded, whether it's not loaded, whether they're going to stop and do things in the middle, maybe. Like there could be some grunt work type stuff. But I think that like us realizing that Helen and 5K Run are two of the top 3 most programmed workouts ever on .com. That's not a mistake. And that's like hey, we're going to stay true to our roots. We're going to keep it classic CrossFit. But I think already having 2 out of 12 to 15 workouts with running that we already know of, that's big. Like you would think that maybe the last one is some kind of, we would hope, speed, agility, sprint type thing. And it would kind of cover all the basis of running in different modalities, different time domains.
Yeah. I also have the thought where you look at 2020's stage 1 programming and how you have all those girl workouts that are souped up. And I would imagine Helen is going to be some variation of that to a degree or something similar to that. And I had the thought also is the likelihood of them switching the implement, and it's not a kettlebell, but instead it's a barbell, a hang snatch for 21 reps. Or I don't know. I mean, how much, where do they go and change it? I think something that would be cool. I had this thought, kind of a throwback to the 2009 CrossFit Games, which is another one of my favorite workouts. And it's 3 rounds for time of 30 low hang squat snatches and 30 wall balls with 55 pound barbell and just a regular ball. And that workout hurts so badly because you can go unbroken on everything. And you can go fast and unbroken. And it's, oh man, the low hang squat snatches, taking the barbell to below the kneecap is fucking disgusting. And I wondered it would be cool if they did a low hang squat snatch in Helen, but I don't know at that point, how different are you getting? I think if you're testing it as one of the 6 tests, then putting something a little more dynamic and some sort of degree of skill involved with a barbell, I would like, but of course there's 5 other opportunities to do that outside of Helen. We don't know what they're going to do yet. I wouldn't be super thrilled with just a standard kettlebell swing.
That's what I was going to ask you. So are you in the camp that the Games is the only place to do a kettlebell swing? Or are you in the camp of if they're going to do a kettlebell swing, it should be done earlier in the season? You know, like, is it to you a live judging? Like,
I think it's easier in live judging.
Right. But do you think that it's even like, I'm actually working on something for the show on Sunday for the Games prediction show, but let's just put it this way. Kettlebell swings have come up a crazy amount since the Games last year. A crazy amount. And am I reading into it just because I know now that Helen's a workout? Maybe. But they're like, sometimes, you know, things don't lie. So I'm just wondering if like everyone says, they wouldn't do swings. They wouldn't do swings. They wouldn't do swings. Like, no. The Games is the place where you do swings because it's the place where you can have the best judges possible.
Yeah. No, I don't think that the Games is not where you do swings. I don't think it's a bad place to put swings. I just would prefer if it's going to be a movement prior to cuts, make it a little more meaningful than a swing. Everyone can do a swing. Make it something where it's like, maybe not everyone can do this with efficiency and speed and intensity. I don't know. I mean, I like you said, I want it to be Helen, but fuck, the best in the field, if you put a 95-pound bar in their hand or even a 75 and made it a low hang squat snatch, like that would be, maybe that's dumb. Maybe it's like a 95, 65-pound hang power snatch. Or what I think would be the coolest is a double kettlebell snatch or even a single arm kettlebell snatch, hang snatch. I like that more as it shows athleticism a little more. I'm not sure that I like the idea of saying these tests to cut to 30 or to 20 are all about one thing and nobody has the opportunity to show separation with athleticism or movement efficiency or skill, capacity, whatever. I think it should be pretty balanced. So I wouldn't hate a kettlebell swing. I just would think there are other things that I think would be cooler.
Do you think that, I'm just thinking of the order that things have happened, right? The first thing we really get this year to talk about at the Games is the kind of grips and the kind of link that you use. We know that, you know, Dave went on, was like, yeah, it's actually the picture, that it's actually the middle finger rule. That's what we're going to go off of. And then Helen gets released. And you immediately think, okay, well, there's pull-up variation. It's a very grippy workout, right? It's a very grippy workout just as written for a lot of people, even for 12 pull-ups, especially in like a typical class.
Yep.
But if they're going to do something like a chest to bar, if they're going to just put a thick pull-up bar up there and just say, hey, we're not changing the workout, you're just doing it on this pull-up bar that's fatter. Do you think that, like, to me, there was a reason they made the big deal out of the grip.
grips?
There's a reason for that. I don't care if it's doesn't have anything to do with this workout, but they're going to be hanging at the games in a capacity at some point where a longer grip is going to put you at an advantage. So my mind just goes right to Helen. Was this the reason? Is it going to be just, hey, yeah, you guys always do a pull-up bar on a regular pull-up bar, but you never do it on a bar that's thicker. That's all we're going to change. And you're doing chest to bar. And now people aren't going to be able to do it unbroken. Like, it could just be that simple. Like, is there a flow to this announcement where, hey, we're letting you know now, you need to make sure your grips are this length. And oh, by the way, you're going to do Helen.
I think what made the grip thing such a big deal is because the pictures were fucking stupid.
Okay.
You also have to take into account the 11 other standards, or however many other standards were in that post. You had the belt, which has been an issue in the past, the knee wraps, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. I wouldn't be surprised. I think before they go to a fat bar, I could see them introducing kipping pull-ups. Like, you can't butterfly, you have to do a gymnastic kip or a kipping chest to bar. And I think that would light a lot of people up and catch a lot of people off guard. And that was one of my initial thoughts as well, was a kipping pull-up would be cool. And I'd like to see that. I think there's a strong likelihood that this is the last test before the cuts. The nature of Helen, it being how bad do you want it? How much are you willing to hurt? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the test on Friday night, before they cut to 30. If it's kipping pull-ups and kettlebell swings, I'll love it. I'm fine with kettlebell swing. If it's just like Helen with a heavier kettlebell, I think still that's potentially nasty, or at least a chest to bar pull-up. I just don't know that just the one change of a heavy kettlebell swing or just adding a ruck is enough. Even I don't like the idea of just 36 regular pull-ups. I also think there's so many different places they could go with this. It's so fucking hard to just pin it down, which is to their benefit.
Do you think it's appropriate to have Helen in the games? If the first reaction of everyone is, how are we going to change it to make it appropriate for the games?
No. Yes, I still think it's appropriate.
I think if 2020 would have never happened, and we didn't get those benchmark girl workouts that were like in the same way they did the thruster double under, right? Mm-hmm. In the same way they made that heavier and just did it the exact same way, only with a heavier load. I think if there hadn't been things like that happen in the past, everyone would be looking around like, you don't do Helen at the games. Like, you can't do that. But I think because they've already taken girl workouts and they've amped them up a little bit to a games level, it is appropriate. I do wonder, though, are they going to continue to? Because we saw Linda with dumbbells, and now we're seeing Helen, and we don't know how it's kind of changed. But what if this is something what if the 5K run that we see programmed all the time, if there's a little twist to it, and
do it again,
and we get that same, hey, we're going to go back to the roots, but in the same way they had to do it with like gym limitations in 2020, are we doing that now, but in live person? So are we going to see a press to handstand Diane? Are we going to see a one of the new girls come out like Lila, right? With right? Like with clean and jerks and muscle ups. Yeah. Like, are we going to kind of see some of these named workouts at the games this year more than just Helen? I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I do too. And it's something they've done for a long time. Yeah, I mean, they did it last year with Elizabeth Elevated. They did it with Double Grace. They did it with Double DT, Heavy DT. There are a lot of twists. So I don't think, you put the field of your top 40 people in the world and you say, hey, do Grace. No, I don't think that's really appropriate. But I think the test to a degree needs to reflect the level of fitness. And so I expect some changes. I don't expect it to just be regular Helen. And I do think it's appropriate. and I love the workout. I love the rep scheme. I just think it's so freaking difficult to even begin to nail down what I think is most likely. Like they changed, like you said, they changed the implements on semifinal Linda. They changed the implements on Elizabeth Elevated. So are we certain they're going to use the kettlebell? Are we certain they're going to use a pull-up bar? I mean, what's not to say they're going to use a ring muscle up?
Yeah, like to me, it's if you're just like, hey, turn Helen into a games workout, but change as little as possible. I say, okay, cool. 3 rounds for time, 400-meter run, 21 swings with a 70, 12 bar muscle up. Done.
Yep.
Like that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yep.
And maybe it is because everyone's going to go unbroken, but who's going to take a 3-2-1 break before the third set of bar muscle ups?
Mm-hmm.
There's
or
a few of
longer.
you. Okay, you're out. Now, of the people who are going to do it unbroken and transition fast, who's willing to run harder? So you still get that classic Helen stimulus of for the people that are going to do it unbroken and fast, it's going to come down to who can run the hardest. Yep. And I think your point about doing it right before the cuts would fit perfectly. Yep. Who wants to sell their soul and take a chance and come out too hot on the first run and pray they can hold on just to make it to the weekend? Like, I think that would be an incredible show.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Chase mentioned this, and
Chase Ingram, that is.
This is to your point. What if we're gonna start seeing the girls, but odd object versions of the girls?
Oh man.
The crazy thing about Helen is, other than Karen, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I guess you still have Eva, right? That's the one with kettlebell swings and pull-ups and running, correct?
5 rounds for time.
Yeah. If you count those as odd objects, right? Kettlebells and wall balls. All the rest of them have barbells.
Yeah.
So will we see a variation of Diane, but with kettlebell deadlifts? And for Helen, we don't see kettlebells like you're talking about. We see something different. I think it would be really cool if the strongman influence just trickles in and we get all these different girl variants, but with odd objects instead of barbells.
Do you think they'd do a D-ball ground to overhead for Helen?
I think what people think traditionally of as a ball slam, but I just like to call it the swim and stuff movement, right?
Yeah. Ground to overhead.
That is as close to a
kettlebell swing,
like to me, maybe as you can get.
I think that would be fucking super cool because that introduces an element that probably not a lot of people train.
And it's a lot of grip.
A ton of grip. I love ball slams. And you can't really call them ball slams because when you're going fast, you're touching going.
Yeah, just a D-ball ground to overhead. and I love it too because there's no subjectivity of like, well, how hard are you? Like, you have to catch it on the bounce. Well, you can still just kind of drop it and catch it on the bounce, like whatever. It's just D-ball ground to overhead. It's like doing singles on a dumbbell snatch with 2 hands. I think the movement for what Helen is would be a perfect legitimate substitute for a kettlebell swing.
And what weight do you think? 50-35 or 50-35 or 60-40?
60-40, I would say.
I heard Sean Woodland on Talking Elite, his proposition, kind of the same strain of strongman. Helen was strongman throwing bags over a bar instead of kettlebell swings.
Stupid.
All right, so
you're gonna do singles
I'm stupid too
for 63 reps.
Well, this is coming. This is going to come on Sunday, but I do think that we're going to see throwing this year at the games.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see throwing in some capacity. And I don't think it's going to be a med ball GHD toss, and I don't think don't say a wall ball is throwing. Right, I get it, but Rogue makes a sandbag right with a handle to kind of simulate that Highlands Games. Basically explosive hip opening, throwing it up and over thing. What if they use like the red strap that they use for chaos to do the burpees and it just said, hey, you run in, you throw this bag, but you have to do it like Will is saying, right, from between your legs with this handle. Like you're not going to be able to, it's going to be high enough where you're not going to be able to shot put it. You're going to actually have to do it backwards over your shoulder. Like I think something like that actually sounds really cool. It's kind of clunky because you can only do it in singles.
So I don't think it's a plug-in for Helen in any way, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
I just wouldn't be surprised to see that as a movement.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, hey, we're like weightlifting and throwing is in the pyramid, but when do we ever throw? Okay, we're going to throw this year. I have some thoughts on that based on some pictures I found, but I'm not going to talk about that.
So shot put at the games 2023, 1 to 10 likelihood.
Like what you would think of as a traditional shot put, or just, hey, here's this round thing and you got to throw it as far as you can, but it's too heavy to throw it like a baseball.
Like that. I think
Yeah,
that's
sure. So you're probably going to have to shot put it because that's the
Yeah.
likelihood of seeing that out of 10.
Yeah.
Probably a 3, 2.
Yeah, I would say a 2 or 3.
But I
Likelihood
think
of,
throwing is at the games 8 or 9 out of 10 this year.
likelihood of some sort of climbing, not on a rope or a cargo net.
9 out of 10.
Wow.
Rock climbing esque.
You're trying to get me to talk about all these Sunday night games.
Yeah, fuck Sevon for having you on for that when I have good ideas too. I'm pissed off right now, dude.
You come on too then.
And he tried to boot me off Friday's show too. So look out, man. I'm coming in hot Friday. Keg toss. Look at Mike Halpin's. Is that your single thought, Mike? Keg toss? What do you think?
I think when we see kegs, I don't think I think kegs could come to the games, right? But when we see it happen, I don't think it's going to be they're going to be thrown. I would think that they're
Carried.
just going to be carried
Yep.
or taken from ground to overhead, which is a lot of times what they're used for in strongman competition. Do you think there's going to be a workout longer than the 5K run at the games?
Longer than the 5K?
Mm-hmm. So that time cap, correct me if I'm wrong, it's online, is 30 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So whether
That's
or not it's
fucking
just
generous.
like, hey, I want to make sure. Well, if all the divisions are doing it, right?
Yeah. Okay.
They just want to make sure that everyone finishes it. Do you think that, let's just say someone does it in 18 or whatever?
I would imagine a couple people maybe go sub 18.
Sure. If it's just a traditional, like not knowing the course,
Yep.
not knowing how hilly it is, not knowing what the terrain is like, you think then for sure we're going to have something else longer?
I would probably say 9 out of 10. You?
Okay. Yeah, I would think so. I still think that they'll get into that mid 20s, 30-minute time domain.
You don't think they'll go longer than that?
Longer than 30? No.
Really? This year at the games? Why? Budget constraints? Seemed like a trick question you were asking me. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, they're going to go longer than the 5K.
Well,
If they don't, that's a huge miss.
if they put on a heavy ruck or they're somewhere in the mountains and they end up pushing that 30-minute cap, are you going to say the same thing?
No, but they're not going to be. So
you don't think?
no, they're not. I mean,
I'm
tell me, you really don't think they're going longer than 30 minutes this year?
I think about 30 is the longest they'll go.
Really? In years past, they've done events up to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Do you think that's appropriate not to test over 30?
I think 30 is fine, but I know like Brian for sure feels more
At the
strongly about that.
games.
If you feel
I
strongly.
so disagree. Yeah. I so disagree. I think
So if they do, how is it going to be presented? Do you think it's just going to be the old same old monostructural type, or you think it's going to be something more like the Capitol but without running?
I think it should be something more similar to the Capitol, similar to Murph-esque type thing, maybe a battleground style of event that's a bit longer than the battleground. I don't think I'll look at the weekend and be like, oh, that was a complete test if there's not anything between 40 and 60 minutes. I don't think it has to be longer than 60 minutes. Like, I don't want to see a marathon row. I think that's fucking dumb. But I definitely think between 40 and 60 is still quite a bit different than just up to 30 minutes.
Right. So we got 2 workouts with running. What's more likely? That they don't bike on a bicycle or that they don't swim this year? More likely. I think
swimming's more expensive.
So if you had to guess, you would guess no swimming at the games.
I would guess no swimming first before no biking. You?
Okay. Yeah. I actually think the only machine that's never been used at the CrossFit Games for individual competition has been the bike erg. And I think this year they use the bike erg. Whether they do it in a sprint type workout, whether they do it, like, imagine if they just did, like a 10-minute max cal test, something like that. But either way, I think the biking at the games this year is done on a stationary bike. If they did a killer cage reboot, something like that, where they used a watt bike before, but they use a Concept 2 bike, I think there's a chance they don't swim or bike.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I also, someone put in the comments about the paddleboard. I do not want to see a paddleboard or a fucking kayak.
Do you think that kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, do you think that skill-wise is as nuanced as someone who grew up swimming?
Do I think kayaking and paddleboarding is nuanced skill wise? Yes. If for sure, if you have years and years of kayak and paddleboard experience, absolutely a massive advantage. And I don't think that's the reason it's dumb. I just think you could do so many other things. I just don't like the look of it. Put them on a fucking surfboard in a lake. Like, make them go surf a fucking wave before you do that. I mean, that's a hot take, but I don't know. It's just nothing really athletic about seeing the top 40 people in the world who can't even stand up on a paddleboard or kayaking like they're fucking churning butter. I just think that's kind of like the softball throw.
Let me ask you this. 2K row for time at the games, but on the water.
Oh, that would be cool.
So you think that would be cool?
If it's in an actual rowboat, like a
Just
single
like-
person,
Like
not a kayak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
In a rowboat. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that'd be cool. I think it's
So,
a good twist on rowing,
I was talking to someone about, like, if we're just going along with this,
but I don't
like,
think they're doing that too
like
expensive.
classic theme. Yeah, to me, like if they do a 5K run, for them to do another monostructural single modality, I think is probably not going to happen. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how could they get on the water without getting in the water if the water's really dirty or whatever. Like could they do something like that? Like
Give
real
each
rowing.
athlete a bottle of Zyrtec and tell them don't drink the fucking water. That's how I grew up swimming, but whatever. In ponds, I got a leech inside my butt crack once, and my grandma had to pull it out. I was like 6 or 5. It's crazy, dude. I was in the bathtub. She was like, "You got another one?" I was like, "Where?" She was like, "Don't worry about it."
All right, so more likely Helen still keeps the kettlebell or less likely? If you had to guess, we keeping the kettlebell in some capacity in Helen, 1 or 2 or whatever.
If I had to guess, they keep. I'm on the fence, man. Like in the center of the fence.
Well, like I thought about the track triplet when you said the thing about the hang snatch and how they did the split snatches with the
snatch.
barbell with the
Yeah.
running and bar muscle ups,
Mhm.
and just thinking
Super cool.
like a hang snatch with a barbell is extremely similar, especially if it's light and you're really
Mhm.
hinging and there's no re-dip. It's very similar to a kettlebell,
And it's more grippy.
and I would say more grippy. So yeah, I mean, I kind of like that idea. I don't know if they'll do it, but I kind of like that idea.
Dude, someone said that you are making some commenter. I just have to address this. It's completely outrageous. Says JR making us miss John Young. Hey, dude, go watch a different show then. But everybody else, we love you. All right. Man, I'm really on the fence with the kettlebell. I think kettlebells probably stay. I think it's probably a heavier swing, a single arm hang snatch, or a dual arm hang snatch. I had the idea of a double kettlebell. It popped into my head just because of alpaca last year, the double kettlebell hang clean and jerk, but that's too much of a cycle. It takes too long to cycle those, so I don't think that would be the case. I think odds are it's a kettlebell. If it's not, then I think probably, man, I would like to see. I think the coolest would be the D-ball ground to overhead, but I think if it's not a kettlebell, it's probably some sort of barbell hang snatch. Do you think they change the movement at all? Do you think they would get away from it being a swing or a hinge to support,
Yeah,
so
I
to
think
speak?
I think it's still got to be some kind of hinged overhead.
Okay. Yeah. No squat.
You remember the How Fit Are You article way back in the day, one of the first general articles? What do you think they keep the rep scheme and do L pull-ups?
Oh man, standard. What's the standard there?
Right.
People are fucking wrecked. There's no way anybody does 12 unbroken. There's no way anybody does even fucking 8 unbroken L pull-ups.
Yeah, I had someone ask me that, and I just think that it probably blunts the intensity way too much.
Yeah, it destroys the intensity. And I wouldn't like that. I think strict pull-ups would be cool because most of the field can still probably do 12 unbroken strict pull-ups. But then how do you standardize that when they're going so fast? I think
Yeah.
that becomes tough.
When you think of L, you think just, they were supposed to do L
Yeah.
standard with the alpaca on the way up and the way
Yeah.
down. So does the heel
Same
stay
standard.
above
Heel
the
above the
butt?
butt.
Like whatever. Does it stay above the heel above the hip crease? Like, I don't know that regular strict is going to be any easier to judge than L.
No, I mean, I think regular strict maybe a little might not be easier to judge than that, but I definitely think for the sake of the workout, regular strict is better. If you go and try to do a strict L pull up and keep your heels above your butt, I'd venture to say 98.9% of our audience right now can't do that. And I would venture to say 50% of the games field would flap around looking like idiots trying to do that. It is super hard.
Yeah. Your idea about taking a skill away, like the butterfly technique, and making people use a standard kip, I think would be something that would catch a lot of people off guard, maybe in the same way that doing single unders would. It would have that
Exactly.
same effect.
Yeah.
Which would be,
And
it would be different.
they're so much more fatiguing than a butterfly pull-up. You go do a max set of unbroken butterfly pull-ups, and then a week later try to do that same number of kipping. Good luck. And just so grippy, so much worse on the shoulders. I do them quite a bit. It's a really good, and they're great for pulling endurance and grip, and good to translate to the bar muscle up. And I think that would be cool making them do that. But who knows? What do you think? You think there are going to be any twists on the 5K? Ideas there?
I want to think that it's just straight up find this trail and just run it as fast as you can.
I like that too. I don't like a vest. I don't like a ruck. Just make it.
I don't think messing with it would be would be nearly as good as just going and doing it.
What are the times you think for 5K in the games field?
Top time? I think for sure top time's under 17:30 for the men.
For all the top 5 men? Yeah.
I don't know about all top 5.
That's good. 17:30 is good. I mean, that's a good over under.
My PR 5K from like 6 years ago is 18:23. And I think I probably shaved quite a bit of time off of that. Man, maybe all 5 are sub 17:30.
I think at that point, really, it just depends on the trail itself.
For sure. That post that Barbell Spin made, the grass course, how much of an effect does running in grass have versus running a 5K on a track? Minutes? A minute added to your time?
Yeah, that's definitely a question for someone that runs track or runs cross country, but also runs track, because I would have no idea how to.
I think it probably adds at least a minute to your time with the force absorption of like soil and soft grass, whereas the rebound you get from a track, you can just carry so much momentum in good track shoes. I think a grass course would be nasty, and if it's a grass course, I don't think maybe one person goes sub 17. I don't know. I don't think on a grass course anyone goes sub 17:30. That would be cool. A little hitch. Not a lot of people run in grass. A lot of people run trails. A lot of people run on the track. I mean, running in grass it takes me back to baseball when I was fat and I used to have to take my cleats off in the dugout at the change of every inning and rub them with icy hot.
Based on where the 5K is put, do you think that it was put there with a smaller field because there is a twist to it, or just because they don't want to do anything single modality until at least the bottom 10 have proven that they need to just do classic CrossFit first?
I would err on the side of that first, than to say it's to have a twist. I think of all the workouts you could plug in that everyone could do that you don't need a twist on, I think a 5K is it. So I would be a little.
Yeah. So why is it after?
Why I think because it's so single modality potentially. I think maybe they have a real strong eye towards making these first 6 tests pretty classic CrossFit, which I would love. I also wouldn't be upset with the 5K prior to the cut. I just think if the 5K was prior to the cut, Helen would need to be a little beefier and not as solely about the run. Yeah. But with it after the cut, I think it's fine as is.
Yeah, to me, like from a programming standpoint, looking at Thursday and Friday as its own competition, so to speak, and how it needs to stand alone as that, and knowing that the 5K is not on Thursday or Friday, I think that they go long on Thursday or Friday, and they make everyone in the field go long. So your idea about the 30 plus, or the 30 to 40 or the 40 plus, maybe that happens on Thursday and they don't do the 5K run until Saturday morning.
Yeah, that would be. I would like them to go long, and that's another point of speculation. Something like the Capitol, but are you gonna? I think, like what you pointed to earlier, it's more likely that the third run, assuming there's not 4. Do you think 4 is too much?
I think 4 is too much if there's only
14.
I don't know.
runs.
If there's 15 scored events, I guess 4 is fine. But I think just in general, if you run 3 times, that's enough.
Yeah, I think 3 runs is enough, and I think if you have it in a workout like Helen, you have it in a workout like a 5K. Then the other workout, it's like you said, likely to be some sort of really short sprint, sled type of thing, or sprint.
Not taking into consideration, people always want to talk about the possibilities of torn hamstrings or Achilles or whatever. What if they did an elimination style workout in North Park that was just a down and back sprint, and they just kept whittling the field down until there was 2 people left?
I like that. Sprinting is a pretty basic and fundamental and foundational
Just
human movement.
Straight up foot sprint.
Yeah.
Just to do it, just keep decreasing the field down until you have 2 people. You think something like that, like someone who only has to do it once versus someone who has to do it 4 or 5 times, do you think that really affects the rest of the weekend? Do you think if they do something like that, they got to do it on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it does affect the rest of the weekend. If you have to do a sprint like that 4 times even versus 1 time, and if it's over 40 meters,
yeah,
it definitely affects you. I mean, CrossFitters don't sprint a lot, like sprint a lot, and that shit makes you fucking sore.
I think that would be awesome if they did 5K run, the 400 meter repeats in Helen, and then they did a straight up 20 seconds or less type sprint.
Yeah, I like that. I would also think it'd be cool to involve the hurdle. I think hurdles would be cool bringing that back. I like jumping and sprinting more than I like making them run around pylons. Like some ugly fucking version of an NFL combine. Just people just looking like idiots trying to get around pylons. Beep test. That's in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think something like that, something really simple that like everyone has done at some point in their life, whether it's like playing basketball and running 5 and 60s, like that's something we had to do. We had to start on one baseline and go 5 down and backs, and you had to do it in 60 seconds. Everyone on the team had to do it, or you had to do it again. You had to do it again. You had to do it again. So it was just longer shuttle runs. I think something like that is super relatable, but I also think it's like really like a test of grit, and then it probably becomes a test of capacity for other people.
Cool.
Do you think we'll get any more of these hints dropped? Do you think they'll just keep coming out, or you think it's just those 2 and that's it?
I think they've been very intentional about the 2 they've released in terms of in 2 weeks, you're not going to really improve your 5K time. And in 2 weeks, you can probably murder yourself in as many variations as you could imagine on Helen to a detriment. I think
they're going to release something similarly to last year, where they just say big lifts return on Saturday night, and everyone, they just showed highlights of snatch and clean and jerk, and then they ended up doing the sandbag. Like I think for the second year in a row, they do a non-traditional barbell lift as the strength test at the games. So I wonder if they release something longer monostructural, classic CrossFit. And I wonder if they'll just release some kind of teaser that says, max lift returns, on Saturday or whatever. Everyone's going to do a max lift at the games. They have kind of all 3 of those bases covered, and that's all you get before the games.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is last year. They didn't really announce anything until really close up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, big difference.
Boz is like, yeah, he had said before too, like, even when he coaches classes, he would wait until after the warm up and everything to even tell the class what they're doing. Like, he loves the waiting as long as possible.
And do you think that's Dave's influence this year, him announcing early?
I don't know. Maybe he's just come around to the idea that, hey, if you get people more excited and get people talking more, it just adds to it.
Yeah.
So
I like
Yeah,
that
because
aspect
I
of
think
it.
Dave releasing little hints on his notepad and just writing sandbag, ski, rope climb, and not knowing anything else. I mean, yeah,
That's cool.
it gets athletes, it gets coaches, it just gets everyone kind of in a frenzy, and it gives people something to talk about because right now is kind of dead. Is dead time.
If they include, so they've had a kayak and a paddleboard at the games. Do you think shooting should be at the games?
Like in a biathlon type setting.
Yeah, like Rogue did. It's tough, huh?
Yeah,
Dave,
I don't
Dave
know
said
how I
recently
feel
that
about
it's completely inappropriate for the games to shoot.
So then why the fuck would they be on a kayak and a paddleboard?
Didn't Dave say last year or the year before, like that he thinks specifically stand-up paddleboard doesn't have a place at the games because it's too skill niche oriented? I think being accurate like that at a high heart rate is cool, but I don't know that I would call that fitness.
Right. I just had that thought because I don't like the idea of the kayak and the paddleboard, even if it's kneeling. Just make it them swim at that point. Meh. I think you involve an implement that some people have a lot of history of using, other people have never touched it before. It involves knowing your way around the implement rather than just a test of fitness. That's so outside the realm of CrossFit. I guess, the biathlon's an event in the Olympics. I don't see how shooting is so different from a kayak or a fucking baseball throw even. Yeah, it's a gun and people are going to get their panties in a wad, but aside from that, and I shoot a lot. I love to shoot.
Yeah, it opens up a big conversation about like, well, what things are so specific culturally to where it puts people from different parts of the world at a disadvantage. I mean, I think a lot of people can argue that for swimming though. Like if you're, a lot of people just assume that Australians all can swim, and I think a lot of them do kind of grow up in the water. Likewise to people from Scandinavia, it's just kind of a way of life. They just grow up in the pool. They learn how to swim at a young age. They swim in school, or kids in America play other sports, like whatever. But how is that any different than what's a softball? I've never even held a softball before, but if you're a kid and grow up in the United States, you've probably thrown a baseball or a softball at some point.
I love to swim too, and I like to kayak, and I like to paddleboard, and I do all those things, and I like to shoot. I just don't know. It's like, where do you draw the line? I guess is where my mind goes. Where do you draw the line? When does it become, this is just kind of gimmicky? It's boring to watch. It's not as much of a test of fitness. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so one more announcement, you think?
I would say we get something that has to do with going heavy. And that would make sense.
Heavy.
Yeah. Or based on the Venn diagram that they posted, we need the gymnastics one.
Yeah.
Because we have the monostructural, we have the CrossFit being in the middle. Yeah, we don't really have the weightlifting test or the gymnastics bias test. So.
I think in that line of thinking, they probably make 2 more announcements. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. It would go along with that Venn diagram a lot, which would be cool.
What do you think was the point of that Venn diagram, posting it with the 5K run? Just saying that, hey, the 5K run is CrossFit. You think that was their intent behind it?
Yeah, like just showing this idea that where all the intersections meet in the middle is CrossFit, but that you can still be on the outsides of those circles too in your training.
Yeah.
But where they all intersect is like your fitness. And
I think with Dave, his emphasis on making sure there's continuity between all the programming coming from the company, that was my thought when I saw that, is like they're going to make a bigger effort of saying, explaining CrossFit methodology through the games. And so that was my first thought. Tyler Watkins last night said that, I think it was John Young said that he was confident that it was a hint of what's to come. To me, when I saw it, I was just like, oh, they're just trying to say like, hey, the CrossFit Games is CrossFit, and here's how this ties in to the general methodology.
And what was John's take, saying it's a hint at what's to come? A hint towards what?
Maybe like 30 muscle ups per time or 50 muscle ups per time or something would be coming next. Something like that.
Which it could be.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point. I think that maybe more so than in recent years, and you guys are in affiliates all the time like I am, what's something that everyone's been doing since the games last year? People take their lead from what Adrian programs at the games. A lot of people have turned everyone around and said, face the wall when you do your handstand push-ups. How many people have learned crossover single unders or crossover double unders, or just taken a jump rope and done something with it more so than just double unders? Almost everybody. So there's that, like, whether people want to admit it or not, like how many people are practicing pirouettes now? There's such an influence on the affiliate from the top that I think, to Will's point, Dave sees that and he's like, hey, I want to be clear that, like, what we're doing at the games, we know you guys watch and we know you want to try to do. So because of that, we're going to make sure you're going in the right direction. And Adrian had a huge emphasis on mastering the basics, getting back to basics. So if that holds true, then I think that Venn diagram being a prediction of what's to come, I mean, I think it's like a extremely loud hint.
Cool. Wrap it up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining in. JR is doing his prediction show with Sevon on Sunday.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's the plan.
So Sunday night, JR's predictions for the games programming. Check that out. Check out his online qualifier signups. Signups for the Charlotte Classic opening on Monday. Selfmadetrainingprogram.com. Get a free trial of programming. And that's it. See you guys probably next week.
Yeah.